Hey there, teachers. Welcome back to the Stellar Teacher Podcast. No, you are not hearing things. You are hearing a different voice doing the introduction today. This is Emily from the Stellar Teacher team, and I am so excited and completely honored because today we are flipping the script. Literally. I'm sort of taking over the podcast reins today with an interview of our Stellar Teacher guru and CEO, Sara. This interview is in honor of a very, very special celebration we have going on here at the Stellar Teacher Company. We are turning 10 years old. Sara, welcome back to your own podcast.
Thanks, Emily. It is honestly a little surreal to be welcomed as a guest to my very own podcast, but thank you for having me today.
Of course. Now, I shouldn't get too used to this.
I mean, I don't know, maybe you should.
So I'm so excited today because we have spent some time collecting questions from our very own team and from our audience. And I just am excited for our audience to get a better understanding of who is Sara.
I know. And it's a little, if I'm being honest, it is a little bit weird to think that the Stellar Teacher Company is turning 10. I never intended to start a business, let alone have one that would be around for 10 years and now have a team of people working behind the scenes to really impact so many teachers. So in so many ways, it is a dream come true. So it's just a really fun celebration that we get to have this week.
Yeah, it's such an incredible accomplishment. And I'm just so happy that I get to witness it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. You ready for some fun?
Let's do it. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit nervous for these questions, but let's jump in.
You'll be okay. Oh, by the way, this is payback from your interview, from my interview when you made me so nervous. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So to start off, a while back, we were recording a podcast and I made a joke about how I needed a comprehensive list of all the places that you've worked. But for real, can you walk us through a little bit about your education experience?
So first of all, I never intended to be a teacher in the first place. I went to college to pursue a biology degree with the hope of becoming a chiropractor.
What? I did not know that.
That was my plan. I, however, was a horrible college student and I failed chemistry my first semester or my first year in college. And my advisor was like, it does not seem to be that you are in the right area. Is there something else you would like to consider? And my mom was a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. I don't think I was like super excited about this idea of being a teacher, but I was like, education sounds good. Like I'll be able to get a job. So I quickly, shifted my focus in college. And once I got started on my education track, then I became like obsessed. And I went to college in a very small rural school. And that's where I also grew up. And so when it came time to graduate, I was like, I want to go teach somewhere where I can feel like I'm making a bigger impact. Mm-hmm. So even though I was an education major, I started my teaching career as part of the Teach for America Corps, which their mission is to place teachers in underserved communities all around the country. And when I applied for that program, I checked a box that said, I am willing to go where the biggest need is. So I was like, I'm going on an adventure. And it just so happened that the biggest need was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So
wow.
My first 2 years of teaching were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I was a second grade teacher.
And you went to college in
Minnesota.
Wow. Big difference.
Oh, yeah. Big difference here. Spent 2 years teaching second grade there. I absolutely loved it. I had a wonderful school, a wonderful principal. I gave 24/7 to my students. I was 100% in it. After those 2 years, my Teach for America commitment was up. So the logical decision was to move back to Minnesota. So I moved back and I taught first grade at a charter school up in the Twin Cities area, specifically in Stillwater. And after being back for about a month, there was just something that was not sitting right within sort of my soul. I was like, this just is not it. I really missed my students. I really missed the community that I was a part of down there. And
you were too cold, probably.
What was that?
You were too cold.
Yeah, and I was very cold. Yeah. But I told my family and I had not even been in school for like a month. It was like September. And I was like, I'm letting you guys know at the end of this school year, I am moving back to Louisiana and that is where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. So anyways, moved back to Louisiana. I taught another year of second grade with my same principal that I previously taught at. Then I moved into an instructional coaching role, still in Louisiana. Then my husband and I were engaged in getting ready to get married, and he had just accepted a job in Chicago. So we moved to Chicago. I got a job as an instructional coach for 2 years up there. After that, we moved to Houston. And after being in the classroom or after being out of the classroom for a couple years, I had really learned just a lot, right? When you are in a coaching role and supporting teachers, I was able to see a lot of what I was doing that was working in other classrooms. And I saw a lot of practices that I used to do that were not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I want to go back in the classroom because I think I would be the best teacher ever. So when we moved to Houston, I started working at a school as a second grade teacher again, because that was sort of my sweet spot. And a month and a half into that position, my principal tapped me on the shoulder and said, we have a position that just opened up in fourth grade in the middle of the year. I need a really strong teacher. Will you take that spot? And if I'm being honest, I was terrified because fourth grade to me were like, those were the big kids.
Yeah.
I'd never taught a big kid grade before, but I loved it. And I feel like that was my favorite teaching experience ever. So then I was in fourth grade. I think it was for about 3 years. And then after that, I became the assistant principal of that same school. And I was the assistant principal for 3 years. And at the end of sort of the thing that kicked me out of the classroom is when my principal told me he was getting ready to retire and he wanted me to be his retirement plan.
Ooh,
And I got this moment of like, do I want to be a principal, right? Like, do I want that to be what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. I actually had some other sort of career ambitions that I wanted to pursue, but ultimately, I, had started my TPT store. It was a very small thing at the time, but my husband was like, look, if you work on this like full time, just think of the impact that you could have. Think of sort of what you could grow. And so when I left school, that sort of became my focus. And then here we are. And that was in 2018. So I guess it's been I'm bad with math, but 7 years?
Do 7 years
in this full time? Yeah. So 7 years I've been working in stellar teacher world for full time.
Wow. So what was the one thing that made you say, okay, I can go all in on the Stellar Teacher Company?
I think honestly, it was probably, it was two things. It was one, I think just the encouragement from my husband.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very supportive. I think like most teachers who are perfectionists and people pleasers, I was really worried about leaving my school because I was going to be creating a need there and letting those people down. And in a lot of ways, pursuing my business felt like a very selfish thing to do, right? Like it felt like a very me thing to do. And so that was kind of a hard thing, but he was very encouraging just on like, think of the opportunities you can create for yourself. But I have always been like a bit of an impact chaser, right? Like the whole reason why I joined Teach for America, anytime I made a switch, whether it was from like, a classroom position to a coaching position, I'm like, I can have a bigger impact on the school if I'm a coach versus a classroom teacher. When I became assistant principal, it's like, I can have a bigger impact on the school as opposed to just my classroom. And so, he's like, think of all the teachers and students you could impact if you were creating your resources full time. And it's funny because when I left teaching to do Stellar Teacher full time, I didn't have my podcast. I didn't have our membership. That wasn't a thing. I didn't have a team at all. And so all of the things that have really allowed us to make a big impact didn't exist when I left. And so I think it was really just my husband kind of helping me see a vision for what was possible. Just sort of pushing me in that direction.
Wow. It feels like it was never linear, but
No.
But it makes perfect sense that you say that you were just always looking to make more and more impact.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's kind of surreal for you to think about the impact that you do make now. Yeah.
I'm always blown away by it. It's like we have been doing some workshops this summer and, we have teachers from Germany tuning in, or teachers from Australia. And I'm just like, it's so cool that we are able to connect and support with teachers from all over the world. It is both like energizing and humbling at the same time.
It's incredible. It really is. Okay, so let me ask you this. Why literacy, versus math, etc.? Why literacy?
So this was also kind of like an accidental thing. It was, to be honest, I did not intentionally choose to go into literacy. So I started my TPT store back in 2015. And at the time I was still a classroom teacher and I was self-contained. So I taught everything. And I also created all of the resources. So I actually have still some very old math resources in the TPT store and science and writing. And I actually really enjoyed creating math resources the most. And that was probably what I had the most of. But I was in a peer mastermind group of other TPT sellers, and Brittany Hagee from Mix and Math, who has become one of my best in real life friends and best business friends, she was in this peer mastermind with me. And so we would talk a lot about business and growth and things we're working on. And she is a math genius,
genius. Yes.
Brilliant. And as she's sharing things and I'm, not just learning about her business, but learning about math, I had this realization that I was like, oh my gosh, I am not teaching math well. Like I did not teach math well. I am not doing it correctly, just as far as like building conceptual understanding. And I'm like, I don't want to just make math resources to make money. If I am not able to make math resources in a way that really help students and teachers understand math at a deeper level, then I should not be in that space. Mm-hmm. So honestly, it was really like my relationship with her helped me realize that I am not the person to be creating math resources. And so I was like, okay, well, if I'm not making math resources, then I need to kind of go all in on literacy. So that is how I ended up really sort of niching down in the area of literacy. And as a result, I have learned so much since being out of the classroom, but as a result, I have become somewhat of a literacy expert because that is the area that I chose to focus on.
For sure. You are a literacy expert. And I know that so many people look to you for your expertise in literacy. So thank you to Brittany Hagee for pushing you to literacy, because we would not be here without that sort of push.
Absolutely.
So were there any moments early on of Stellar Teacher Company where you almost gave up, went back to the classroom, and what kind of kept you going?
I mean, early on, it was just hard and exhausting because I was a team of one, and that's how pretty much all businesses, not all, but a lot of businesses start, right? So I'm doing everything. I'm creating and doing social media and answering emails. And, when I was still working in school, I would also work 4 to 6 hours on night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. There was a lot of years where I didn't have any hobbies because this side hustle, this Teachers Pay Teachers store, Stellar Teacher, was my hobby. And it was really interesting because then when I started doing this full time, I still kind of worked those same hours. And it took me a couple years to realize that I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I shouldn't be spending all of my nights and weekends doing this thing. And so that was just really kind of hard and exhausting. But there was a moment back, I think it was probably 2020, when we were shifting in the literacy world from balanced literacy to the science of reading. And that was a very scary moment for me because I had a business that was in the literacy space. And I remember being on a workshop. We did a webinar and somebody in the comments said, is this aligned to the science of reading? And I was like, I've never heard this term before. And I'm like, people are coming to me for literacy help and support and advice. And I haven't heard this term before. So I started doing kind of a little bit of research and reading, maybe not as much as I should have, but then I had my podcast at this time, and I think it was a September or October, and I can't even remember what episode it was specifically, but somebody had left me a 1-star review on my podcast. They basically said, don't listen to this podcast. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Go listen to this podcast instead. And I remember getting that review and kind of thinking, it's like, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I should just shut it all down and not do this because you don't know what I'm talking about.
Did you go and listen to that other podcast?
No, I didn't. No, but what I did do, right? I mean, first of all, a 1-star review hurts. It's this is sort of the challenge of being out there on the internet and putting yourself out there. Yeah. Not everybody has nice things to say, but I look at that 1-star review kind of as almost like a key point in my literacy growth journey because, I had some friends that were very encouraging, and Peyton was like, you do know what you're talking about, and it was like, and here's the other thing, if you have more to learn, then learn it, right? You have a platform, teachers come to you. So if there is knowledge that needs to be learned and spread, then you do the work and share it with the audience. And so that was kind of when I was like, I am doubling down on the science of reading. I read and, ordered so many books, attended so many PD sessions. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And that was probably one of the best things that I could have done because I know so much now about the science of reading. And we've created so many training sessions and resources and podcast episodes that I know have really helped teachers. And so I think back on that, that one-star review could have either been the end of Stellar Teacher. Really, it was the thing that sort of like motivated me to really take my own professional learning seriously and become somebody that teachers can look to and come to when it comes to understanding how should we be teaching literacy in the classroom.
Wow. I mean, it's just like that old trope, let your haters be your motivators. I feel like we should find this person and send them a gift card because thank you so much for pushing Sara. What's so awesome about that, though, is like, as the world was shifting, or as the world of literacy was shifting and learning new things, you were learning and then teaching them to others. Like, not only were you undergoing this big change, but teachers were you were going through it with your teachers. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So I think you kind of maybe already answered this, but if you were not in the education world, what career would you like to be in?
Yeah. So I always think about this. One, it's like, I can't now imagine a life outside of education. And I think that like all things happen for a reason, right? Whether it's like divine intervention or whatever you want to consider it. But I believe that I was meant to be in education supporting teachers. And when I left the class, or when I left working as an assistant principal, I actually started to pursue a career in personal training because I love working out. I love weightlifting. I love fitness. I've always been something that I enjoy. And I was like, I would have been a really good personal trainer. So I went down that rabbit hole. I was getting my certification. I actually already had like a job lined up to be a fitness instructor with like a boot camp in Houston. And I was going to like start there. And maybe about like a month and a half into that process is when I tore my Achilles tendon.
Oh my goodness.
And wow, it was a full tear. And basically what that meant was then I was immobile for 3 months. And then it took me like a full 6 months before I could return to like sort of normal activity, and a full year before I could go back to sport, to anything. And I kind of view that sort of Achilles tendon tear as like closing the door on like, I am not pursuing anything in the fitness area that is meant to be a hobby for me. And like education is where I need to put all my time and energy. Because when that happened, then I was like, well, I guess like building up the Stellar Teacher business and the blog and the website and TPT and all of that stuff was what I spent my time on doing instead.
I mean, yeah, you couldn't move. You just probably spent most of your time on the computer, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
It worked out. But yeah, I always think it's like, I would have loved like to be a physical therapist, a personal trainer, anything in that space. But but then it's like, that is my hobby. And so it probably wouldn't be my hobby if it was my career.
Some things are just meant to be just enjoyable, right? And some things are meant to be painstaking hard work, like your job.
Yeah.
So we know through listening to the podcast that reading and literature is such a big part of your life. Is there a book that really helped to inspire your company's growth?
That's a good question. There's actually been a few. I am an avid reader and I have read so many business books.
Yeah.
But I think there's actually 3. So there's 3 books that I think have had a huge impact on the business in general. First is not a business book at all. And it's actually Nancy Hennessy's The Reading Comprehension Blueprint. Yeah. And we share it a lot. And this was the very first science of reading book that I ever read. And it really did 2 things for me. One, it affirmed, right? This was back when I was, I don't want to say having my mini crisis, but when I was like, oh my gosh, like what if I don't know what I'm talking about? But as I read through that book, I realized that actually there are a lot of things that are in the science of reading that I was already doing as a teacher and that I was already telling teachers to do. And so it sort of validated that like, yes, I can be in this space and I can encourage teachers as, with accurate knowledge. But it also gave me a much deeper understanding of areas of things like syntax, things that I sort of did not know about or had forgotten about. And so that was really like a motivating book for me to want to dig into and learn more about the science of reading. Another book that had a really big impact is called Who, Not How by Dan Sullivan. And, I mentioned earlier, I was a team of one. And this book, right, it's this idea that if I want to really grow the company, I need to have a team. And so it was not a matter of like, how do I do these tasks, right? Like when I started my podcast, it wasn't, oh, how do I do a podcast? It's who do I need to hire to help me start a podcast? If we're working on a curriculum project, it's not, okay, how do I do this project? It's who do I need to hire in order to do that? And so that book really helped me just like get a much better and bigger vision for how we could grow a team at Stellar Teacher. And the team of teachers behind the Stellar Teacher team are absolutely incredible. I feel so fortunate that I get to work with you guys every day. So that book has been really great. And then Profit First by Michael Michalowicz. I know nothing about running a business, right? And business finances are a part of it, especially when you have a team of people that rely on the success of the company for their livelihood. And so I read that book and it gave me just a lot of clarity on how I need to structure my business finances. As a side note, it also really helped me have a much better understanding of personal finance as well. And I feel like that was kind of an additional like pivot point in like helping me understand, okay, how can we set up our savings, our expenses, our whatever, just so that way it worked for us. So if you are somebody, I think he has a Profit First book that is like not for business owners, but for individuals. So if you are somebody that is looking for even just like insight and help with finances, because that's something that they don't teach you in school, that I feel like they should.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great resource. So yeah, I don't know. Those 3 books I would say have been really
wow. Yeah. See, that's what's so impressive to me about you is that like something overwhelming, like how do I start a podcast or how do I, do taxes for my business? That would deter so many people, but not you, because like your ambition just to keep your ambition and your passion to keep the company thriving, you turn to literature. Like you literally turn to literature to help you navigate these things. And it's just know that so many people would have given up, but you did not.
I did not.
So that's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we've kind of talked about the last 10 years, but I think people really want to know what's next for our company. And do you have any big dreams for the next 10 years?
My dream list, my wish list, my planning list is like a mile long. Sometimes I worry that I overwhelm the team with all of my ideas. Lots of big dreams for the next 10 years. One, I hope that we are still around, sort of like step number 1, that we are still a company in 10 years. But I sort of short-term things that I would love for us to tackle. I would love to expand to K2. So we've always primarily been like a 3-5 company. So I would love to expand down to K2. I would also love to expand up to 6-8. So expand across the grade levels. We have gotten a lot of requests from teachers to do like novel studies. And so adding in, we have these really amazing reading and writing units that are just beautiful and wonderful. And I would love to create like novel and picture book companions that go with those for teachers to use as an option. We recently this summer, or actually this week, are releasing our reading intervention kit, which is like so exciting. That it's a dream come true for a long time. There's 2 things that I really want to do with that. One, I want to get printable, right? Like I want to have a hard good. So teachers can order like a spiral bound teacher's manual of that resource. And then I also want to have like decodables, like actual book sets that they could order to go along with those. So I don't know, those are some of like the short-term projects that, we'll be working on over the next couple of years. But in general, I am always so amazed that there are so many teachers who are willing to pay for our resources and our program out of their own pocket. And at the same time, I wish that that was not the case and that more schools would pick up the cost. And so when I think to where are we going to be in 10 years, I would love for us to be on state's approved curriculum list. So that way schools could adopt our program and resources and teachers would not have to spend their own money to do it. So that's sort of like the big, in 10 years, where are we headed? Like state takeovers, like
yeah,
Stellar Teacher will be in classrooms, where states are funding it or districts are funding it all across the country.
That sounds amazing. I cannot wait.
Expanding our team. That's one of my favorite things that has maybe been surprising is I love growing a team, and I always get so excited thinking about who else are we going to be able to add to our team, because you guys just provide, I don't know, the resources you guys make are so much better than anything that I ever created. The ideas that you guys bring, the collaboration. So definitely growing our team in the next 10 years as well.
Those all sound awesome. And I hope that I can be involved in all of those things.
Right.
What advice would you give to someone, like maybe a first-year teacher or somebody who's just now discovering the Stellar Teacher Collective?
Ooh, if you are just discovering Stellar Teacher, welcome. I think any advice, whether you're a new teacher or if you're new to the Stellar Teacher world, don't we've talked about this during our book study, and I feel like it works here. Go as slow as you need to, but as fast as you can, right? I think so often in education, we get overwhelmed feeling like we have to do all of the things right now, today. It's like, I have to know everything today. And the reality of it is we have limited time. We have limited brain power, limited energy. And so you can't do everything. And so just allowing yourself to enjoy the journey and learn about the things that you want to learn about, discover the new resources, try something new, but not feeling the pressure that on day one, you need to be an expert at everything that you're doing.
Great advice. Just take it one step at a time. And I love that quote. Go as
slow as you need to, but as fast as you can.
Yeah, great. Well, Sara, thank you so much for doing this interview. I am just so excited that our audience gets to have a glimpse about who you are, because you are just so incredibly passionate and ambitious, and overall just such a wonderful coach and a wonderful person. And I'm so glad that our teachers got to learn a little bit more about you. So thank you so much for doing our interview today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, Emily. It was good to be here.
I'll give you your podcast back next week.
Right. I was going to say, we'll see everybody back here next week. And for those of you joining us this week for our happy birthday bash, our Stellar Teacher Birthday Bash, we of course hope that you guys have a great time. Everything we put together is ultimately for our teachers.
So exciting and such a wonderful time of celebration for the Stellar Teacher Company. So congratulations on 10 years, Sara.
Thank you.